Okay, so today I have my horse Jovi, aka, well, Jovine is his name. I call him Jovi. He is a 5-year-old Oldenburg that I got as a unstarted 2.5-year-old. And I'm just going to today talk about a little bit of his warm-up, because his warm-up is a little bit different than I might do with some other horses. So first I want to tell you about my thoughts with this horse. So if you look at him, he's got beautiful head and neck. He kind of wants to keep his chest a little bit back underneath of himself. And I'll explain a little bit more of that later. But his issue is if I just naturally let him go around, his withers don't necessarily come up and he kind of pushes onto his forehand. Part of that, I don't know if he has a fly, part of that is because he has a little bit of a straight hind leg. And if you notice that his center of mass of his pelvis is actually higher than the center of mass of his shoulder and lower neck. And what I mean by that is he actually is the same height from the top of his croup to his withers. Like, he's not built downhill per se, but there is this sort of energetic downhillness, and that is because the center of mass of his pelvis is higher than the center of mass of his chest and neck and scapula area. So in essence, he's going to go downhill because of that. Now, what's interesting about this horse that we're not so much tapping into as a 5-year-old is that he does have a really good ability to sit. So he's got a lot of flexibility in his lumbar region, and he can very easily kind of tuck that pelvis underneath of him and sit, which is why I think that with patience and persistence and some good training, that this dynamic of the way that he goes is going to change significantly over a period of time. But with that, what's sort of the weakest link that really needs to strengthen in this horse? And it's not because he braces his neck or because he's like, rushing around or anything, is that we really need his back to be strong. And he has a fairly short back, so it's not like he has this long, weak back, but what I need is really for that core to be strong, because that's what's going to give him the ability and the stability to be able to lift his withers and also to sit behind as time goes on in the years. And so to warm him up, I always start and I hack him around the farm, which he really likes that. Get a lot of walking in, doing some hills. I'll trot some hills and stuff like that, kind of get all of his juices flowing. And then when we come into the arena, I really keep my reins fairly long. It looks pretty sloppy actually, but I don't want to compress him yet. I just want him to stretch over his top line, which you notice that he has no problem sort of like having his head out and down. That's kind of a little bit like naturally how he wants to go. And so for me to just loosen him up, I have to kind of put him out and down that way. And then later I can bring him up and actually once I get his back swinging and get him nice and forward, then I can start thinking about, how am I going to rebalance him a little bit. And that's kind of where he is at in his training. So I just wanted to show you a few minutes of his warm-up, which is just sort of like free-flowing, forward, loosening, and getting him to soften over his back. And like I said, my reins are pretty loose at this point. I'm just kind of letting him pick his neck position really, and sometimes he'll want to go really low with it, and then other times he'll bring it up a little bit, and I just want him to kind of loosen his back up. and go nice and forward. Yeah, there we go. And just kind of get his body going. He is 17.1, and he is a little bit of a diesel engine in the sense that it takes him a little bit to kind of get going. And so this is kind of how I start. So not real pretty, but useful. And he'll start to take a longer stride. And because he's on the lazier side, I definitely ride with my legs off because I want him to carry me on his own. And now we start to get that longer stride. Now he's still really downhill. Oddly enough, he doesn't really give you the feeling of being very downhill. I'm always looking at his videos and thinking that he looks way more downhill than he feels. Yeah, still wanting to bend, not bend as well to the left as to the right. This is just age, training, and all of that. Come. Shh. Shh. Good boy. Shh. Good. Good. And from there then, we'll do a little bit of the same in the canter. Come. And from there, we do a little bit of the same in the canter. And I just want him to go forward and to stretch his top line. And I'm not really worried here about anything other than that. I mean, obviously, he needs to be bent to the inside, not so much in his neck, but especially in this direction, in his rib cage, which is harder for him in this direction. If he's going to kind of put any weight more on any one leg than the other, he's going to take it off the right hind and he's going to put it on the left fore. And so in this part, we're literally just kind of addressing that right now with the rib cage. I do that with my left seat bone is a little forward, my left shoulder is a little bit back as I come through the turns, because I'm saying bend, bend, bend. Good. Good. And then we do that to the other direction. Good. Come. 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 Yeah, I want this to be, because he has a tendency to be lazy, I want this to be really forward thinking. Yeah. But not rushing, not running. Don't want to send him so forward that he comes off balance. I want to be able to give a rein or to give a rein, and I want him to stay on my seat. I want to be able to... What are you doing, bud? Did you get a bug? You got something bugging you? I want to be able to just sit up and ride and have him carry me forward. I don't want... Come. Not gonna... Well, yeah, I thought he had a bug. Like, he doesn't usually kind of curl up. And so there was something definitely sort of bugging him. Did you get it? Okay, so we'll go back to that because that was a pretty abrupt transition. Good. Strut. Good. Good. Come. In this direction, I don't have as much issue with bending in the rib cage. I almost have to straighten them a little bit on the outside, again, to keep that left shoulder in alignment with the right hind. Good. And when I feel like he's just nicely going forward on his own accord, if I take my legs off and he does that, I'm going to send him forward, take my legs off. I want him to maintain. Good. Yeah, good boy. And then I half halt to come down. Good. Good. And then as you see, we got a lot more energy now in the trot after that loosening up work. So that's his warm-up for this particular horse. And this is not the warm-up that you would do with every horse. I would not do this warm-up with my 9-year-old because he would just start dumping around on the forehand. This guy will probably not do this kind of warm-up as a 9-year-old either because it will just have him dumping on the forehand. But for now, this is how I get him to stretch out his back, move over his body better. And it's just kind of looks a little loose and sloppy. But what I'm going for is just that free-flowing forward. And then from there, you saw as he has that more push and that more energy coming from behind, then we can start to recycle it and bring him up into a self-carriage that would be, more of what he should be in as a 5-year-old. Okay, that's today. Thanks, guys.